Should leadership be required to explain policy decisions to the community? Dana, what do you think? Hi, welcome to another episode of Car to Car. I'm Ramon.
And hi, I'm Dana.
On today's episode, we'll ask the question: should leadership be required to explain policy decisions to the community? Dana, what do you think?
No, I do not believe that the police leadership should explain every policy to the public. Now, I do believe that police leadership should answer any questions that the public pose regarding policies. And I do believe that the public should be aware of policies that directly affect them. Again, for instance, if the police leadership says every Friday we're going to run radar in this particular area, then the police should explain that to the public so that they can be aware of that policy shift. So any policy that directly affects them, absolutely. If you have policy change, if you're trying to hold an officer accountable for, say, an excessive use of force, or you changing your shooting policy, absolutely, you should let the community know those things. But just to keep the bureaucracy moving, the leadership has to be able to make policy decisions, because not everything affects the community per se. Some policies are internal between leadership and the staff. So to keep the bureaucracy moving, they shouldn't have to explain every policy decision.
I agree with you to a point, but I think what happens here is that uh, when I think about policy decisions explaining to the community, I think about situations that occur. I think for the most part, departments put their departmental policy on their website, which I think is not a bad idea. Um, but like you said, when it comes to maybe changing shooting policies or chase policies, things that directly affect them, I think they have a right to know. And so we should make sure that there's a relationship that we have between uh, the police and community. And I think helping them understand certain policies can go a long way. It's going to build trust, transparency. It's going to help us with accountability, where people feel like they have a connection to the department. I mean, we're out here dancing and doing all this other stuff with the community, but we can't explain our policies to them. I think that I would want to know um, what policies affect police officers in my neighborhood, so I can make sure that we're holding the department accountable to those policies. I think in a time where uh, there, even with videotaping and things of this nature, you see police officers still doing a lot of nefarious stuff, and they don't care if they're being taped or anything. We need to be able to say, hey, doesn't your policy say this? Shouldn't you do this? So, I think that there has to be a little bit of community pushback um, into the police departments, that to ensure that there is some accountability going on, because there is a lot of lack of accountability.
Oh, I
So,
absolutely agree. And I think we're saying the same thing. When I said that the leadership shouldn't explain every policy, because some policies are just between leadership and staff. Perfect example: staff is required to call 15 minutes before you call out sick. Let your supervisor know. I don't know if the community needs to know that policy,
I agree.
but obviously, you know, the major policies that affect them, the shooting policy, chase policy, those policies, absolutely. And any question that the community has, because they're our bosses, we should make time to answer those questions.
Yeah. I think that we forget that last thing you said, that they're our bosses. And I know police officers hate to look at it that way, but if we look at the nuance of it, the taxes that they pay uh, directly pays us. So, I mean, it sounds roundabout and crazy, but, to a lesser degree, the citizens aren't completely our bosses. And I'll just add this last thing in when we talk about transparency and knowing the policies and stuff. I think once there's a situation that happens where a police needs to be held accountable, especially when it comes to um, someone shooting a family member or someone dying. If there's somebody on camera, you don't have to release that video to the entire population, but that mother or father or husband or wife, should be able to see that in a personal setting. So I think a lot of stuff and goes a long way with really building community trust. And like I said, I've never been a fan of, going out dancing with the police, the police dancing in uniforms and things of that nature. You know, I remember just even coming on, we had to shave our beard, and towards the end, we had to change and now allow beards. We got tattoos all on our neck and stuff like that. I think a lot of stuff we're losing the professional perception that is police, and I think we need to kind of get back to that. Even though the police have done some things wrong, but that's where it goes into the whole accountability thing. But you know, that's my 2 cents.
Well, I respect your 2 cents. Well, that's all I have. And this is another episode of Carter Car Podcast. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Um,
And until next time.
until next time.